Okay, you guys, today we're going to be talking about the season 2 finale of Once Upon a Time. The good news this week is that Once Upon a Time has been renewed for a season number 3, so we're very excited about that, especially based on the fact that at the end of this episode, there was just a bit of a cliffhanger. So like we know from last week, Tamara and Greg have the trigger, and so the first thing they do this week is they head down into the mines and they start it. So they kick off the destruction of Storybrooke. So they've got Captain Hook with them, but once he realizes what they're gonna do, you know, he kind of realizes that he'd like to live more than he'd like to help them. This episode was a really interesting one for Hook, you know, it wasn't just him getting beat up, which we know is his usual. In this episode, we actually kind of see a little bit more of his backstory. We also get to see a bit of the interaction between him and Bae that's continued on, you know, from last week's episode. So that was really interesting. The gist of the town getting destroyed, you know, by this trigger is that anyone who wasn't born in this world, in our world, is going to die when Storybrooke gets destroyed. So everybody gets together and they kind of quickly formulate this plan to try to steal back one of the magic beans so they can open a portal and everyone can jump in to kind of get out of Storybrooke so they can survive. For Emma too, she's like super intent that they're going to figure out a way for everyone to get out because she doesn't want to leave Henry alone, because Henry is really the only one there among them that was born in this world. So if Storybrooke gets destroyed, they all die, he gets left alone. And Emma, who obviously grew up alone, you know, doesn't want that to happen to Henry. Regina was really interesting in this episode, you guys. I mean, I feel like at times she is the most kind of like back and forth character. One week we're gonna be good. The next week she is doing something not just a little bit evil, like full on evil. And this week she decided to be good Regina, you know, because she realizes that them getting the trigger is her fault and she feels awful about that. And so she really kind of sacrifices herself. Eventually she tells Emma, like, once you guys open the portal, I won't be able to leave. Like, I'll have to stay here and I'll have to kind of die here. And once Henry finds that out, he decides that is not okay. And Henry's right, you know, let's do the right thing. And so everybody agrees, except for Emma. Emma's really struggling because she's really scared that they're gonna fail and Henry's gonna be by himself. So what they're gonna try to do is they're gonna try to use the bean to open the portal, and they're gonna try to throw the trigger into the portal. So it seems like everybody's along for the plan, but then of course Captain Hook does his Captain Hook thing, and he runs off with the magic bean. Like, he gets on his ship and he goes away. But eventually he starts to kind of flash back to his interaction with Bae when Bae was on the ship with him. And so, yeah, let's kind of talk about that a bit. Eventually, Hook figures out who Bae is, and then he seems a little bit torn. But I think he tends to kind of lean to the side of, hey, you can stay on the ship with me, we can be a family, your mother and I talked about coming to find you and to bring you with us, so we could do that. But Bae doesn't really want to hear it. You know, his dad has kind of told him all his life that his mother was killed by a pirate, and so I think he struggles to believe, you know, what Hook is saying to him. Eventually, Bae gives himself over to Peter Pan to get taken to the island so that he can get away from Hook. And Peter Pan, like, they really think that this is probably the boy that their leader is looking for, but it turns out that it's not. And I guess this kind of puts one of those theories to rest. I know a lot of people were thinking that, Neil, that Bae was Peter Pan, but we actually met Peter Pan in this episode, so that was kind of interesting. I don't know enough about the Peter Pan story, like, in all reality, to know, like, I don't know, because Peter Pan seemed kind of evil, and I just thought, like, I knew he was kind of mischievous, but I didn't really think he was, like, a bad guy, so I don't know. If you guys know about the Peter Pan story, comment down below. Now, back in Storybrooke, you know, Hook is kind of thinking about his time with Bae on the ship, and something Bae said to him. Bae kind of says to him at one point, like, you only care about yourself. And Hook remembers that and decides to turn the ship around and go back to help. Now, he has the bean, but by this point, Regina and Emma have managed to stop the trigger. So at the last minute when they're all crying and saying goodbye, Emma decides, maybe I could help you, maybe we could do it together. So that was kind of cool that the two of them worked together, and they were able to stop it. And then once everybody kind of recovers, because, you know, it was kind of a little explosive, once they recover, they realize Henry is gone. And it turns out that Greg and Tamara have taken him because they realize all of a sudden that he's important for some reason. We see them use one of the magic beans, beans and they jump into a portal with Henry. So of course everyone is freaking out. So once Hook returns with the bean, they decide, look, we're going into the portal, we're gonna go find him. So you see Mary Margaret, you see David, Emma, Regina's with them, Hook, Mr. Gold. Also too, something else that happened in this episode is that Belle finally gets her memory back. Turns out that Mother Superior has been kind of working on this potion and she finally gets it right. And so Mr. Gold gives Lacey the potion so that she returns to her normal self. And I was happy about that, but you guys know I don't get the Ron Bell thing, so they start kissing and I fast forward. Speaking of Mr. Gold, I forgot to mention, like, he tried to kill Henry at the beginning of the episode. Like, he was really gonna do it. And then Emma and David show up to tell him, you know, that Bay is gone, that he's been shot, and that he fell into the portal. And Mr. Gold, of course, is hugely upset. He said something I thought was really interesting, and that was kind of about the price of magic, because he's always the one that's telling people, like, magic comes with a price, dearie. And it did. Like, he was talking about the fact that he brought magic to Storybrooke to find his son, and in the end, it's, you know, it turns out to be his son's undoing, which was kind of sad. We do see a shot of Bay at the end of the episode, like, show up. It looks like he shows up in the Enchanted Forest, because we see him with Mulan and Prince Philip, and so it's kind of like, is he alive? Like, it seemed to me like they were saying he's not dead. The other thing I kind of noted at the end was that they seemed to kind of be making a connection, like, between whoever Tamara and Greg is working for and between this kind of shadowy figure in Neverland. You know, that they might perhaps be the same person. Also, too, like, when Peter Pan realizes that, you know, Bay isn't the boy that his leader is looking for, somebody shows him a picture and says, this is the boy that he wants, and it turns out that that picture is of Henry. So I'm guessing we're gonna figure out in season 3 what's so important about Henry. It was a good episode, you guys. I know that this season on Once Upon a Time, the ratings have been kind of like up and down and people have been complaining about the show, but I feel like it's been really good. There have been some really great episodes. Sure, there have been some, you know, fillers and some slow spots, but overall I've enjoyed this season. I would definitely say season 1 has the edge. Like, season 1's a little better, but I think that's just because, you know, now we kind of know the story and we know who everyone is, and that mystery is kind of gone. So I'm kind of excited to see them go off to Neverland and kind of explore that. I was also excited that they didn't destroy Storybrooke, because I was a little afraid of that. So I'm glad they, in the end, didn't do that. I'm excited for season 3 to see kind of what else they choose to explore. I've also heard there's a spin-off for Once Upon a Time as well, so I guess we'll see what that is. So yeah, that's it for season 2 of Once Upon a Time, you guys. I'm gonna pop up a link to all of the reviews that I've done this season if you want to go ahead and check those out. Don't forget to subscribe, you guys. Thanks so much for watching, Once Upon a Timers, and I will see you again soon. Bye.